I just want to give you a bit of an insight into the AFL Enjoys team. We're a bunch of unique individuals, Matsa, Sfenda, and Dean. We're going to engage with our minds and our hearts. We're going to exchange ideas, thoughts, and even our energy. And to speak from your heart, you need to have courage. You need to be honest and authentic. We're not always going to get it right, and sometimes you're not going to agree with us. But that's okay, because just like you, we care. Just like you, we're passionate about the game. So if you want to come along for the ride, join us at the AFL Enjoys podcast, because we really enjoy the footy. Hello and welcome back to the AFL Enjoys podcast. I'm joined once again by some very happy boys this week, George Sfenda and James Matsa. How are we going, boys?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Oh, the sunnies are on. The
That's
lid's off.
it, man. We couldn't help ourselves, man. We had to put the sunnies on from the start. Let's go,
What
lads.
about the cap? What about the Carlton hat,
The
mate?
Carlton hat?
Carlton
Hey,
hat.
is that-
It's staying on the whole pod.
I
Fair
like
enough.
it. Is that the one I got you for your birthday or no?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go, man. There we go.
Not very convincing answer there, George.
Nice. Dude's just lied straight to my face.
On camera as well.
Hey, that's him, man. He 4K.
Jeez.
Caught him lying in 4K.
Well, look, the cap is on for a reason. Let's get right into it. The Blues with a massive victory over the Cats.
We
on
are
Thursday
going to
night.
the grand
Oh,
final. mate.
he's going to
the grand
He's pulling a Bafu call.
Last week, your grandpa,
He did.
your papu, said that North Melbourne's going to the grand final.
Hey, he was right. Anyway,
He may be right, and we'll get to that. But I think he was talking about a different blue and white team.
Oh,
A
possibly.
navy blue team. The Carlton Football Club, mate.
Hey, you know
Alright,
what?
alright.
Stakes are claimed now. The Blues were very impressive.
I
Wow.
said it on Instagram. I said the Pies really thought they did something.
Phew.
And the Blues went and did that exact same thing.
They did. They
So
beat the Cats.
I'm a very happy man.
Hey, as you should be, man. As you should be, man. What did you enjoy from the performance, man? Give us a little insight from a
Well,
Carlton perspective.
Anytime Carlton wins a big game, the supporters think that they've won a flag. So the camaraderie at the end of the game was...
As we can see right here, yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about, actually. The camaraderie at the end of the game was amazing. Hugging, kissing, all of the above. So that was
Beyond
was
that
good.
as well.
Yeah, the riding the emotions of the game was fun because I was there with my dad as well. So that was good. But it's just good to see Carlton actually, hold the lead. And win a big game. So, we weren't really sure what we're going to expect from the Blues after the preseason. But 2 rounds in, 6 points against the Tigers and against the Cats, 2 strong opponents.
Against the former premiers.
former premiers. So it's now we go into some games that are a little bit on paper easier. So we've kind of set up a good start to the season.
I don't know. On paper, next week's not so easy, but anyway, we'll get to that at next week's pod. Now, look, the Blues were very impressive, and one thing I noted down, which I find to be even more impressive than the win itself, was no Walsh, no Hewitt, and still bossing the midfield completely.
Well, we talk a bit about the Cats' injuries, and they do have injuries, and Tom Stewart's is a big name out. But yeah, you're right. The midfield battle, Walsh and Hewitt gone. I mean, you put those two in the team, makes a big difference.
Massive difference.
Let's see, like players like Matthew Kennedy, who he really stepped it up. Blake Acres and Ed Curnow. Ed Curnow, a bit of a resurgence for the boy, man. He looked really good. So good on them, man.
He brought back the tag as well, so he ran with Guthrie, and
You shut him down.
he shut him
He
down.
shut him down.
For part of
So-
the game, which was good.
That's it.
You did very well, and you touched on the Cats before almost catching up and almost spoiling the party for the Blues. And I'm just going to call out 2 boys here. Theona Bruin and Jack Bowes, you've been recruited to the best team in the land, the reigning premiers. There was 2 moments in that last quarter that could have dictated the game in a very different way. Firstly, it was Jack Bowes missing an absolute sitter of a set shot, sprayed it completely, lost all composure. And then a few minutes later, Theona Bruin spinning out of the stoppage, looking like he's going to hit a target, lace out, kicks it on the full.
Yeah, that was poor.
When you lose
That
by
was
2
very
goals
poor.
and those 2 things happen, it could have been a very different ending to the night for the Blues. But those guys need to turn it up a little bit. You've joined the best team in the land. You can't be putting out that Gold Coast and GWS stuff.
That's it. Because you play like that, you're going to get dropped. If
You
they
will.
had gone to a team, say for example, Bowes went to Essendon, who wanted him, or the Hawks, he can afford to make those mistakes, but not at Geelong. And similar to Theona Bruin, I think we were linked with him. A few other teams probably as well, but yeah.
Yeah, Bose did let us off the hook. He could have put it within 2 points, I think, and he missed a pretty easy shot, so I'm happy about that. We all kind of looked at each other in the crowd and just thought, got away with one then.
What?
Yeah, what? That's some luck. I'm gonna give some flowers. Actually,
Oh,
I know you guys emptied the florist last week with your
so
flowers.
we can find some flowers. We'll go into the neighbour's backyard. He's got a couple.
I wasn't aware of the flowers tradition, but I'm going to give mine to Jeremy Cameron,
Thank you.
who
Yeah.
put in one of the best individual performances I've seen, maybe in a very long time, but maybe ever. 6 goals, 25 possessions. He did not even get close to missing. Kept his whole team in it. It was a ridiculous performance.
And what I was most impressed by, those 50-meter plus set shots, he doesn't need to run off his line.
No.
It doesn't look like he's even trying to kick it 60 meters on a straight drop punt.
Are you saying he did it without even trying?
I'm fairly certain he wasn't trying, Matsa. I'm fairly certain. He looks like he's not trying, though. Genuinely. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
I agree. I think after that game, I think he's reminded us, regardless of how good Charlie Curnow was, Jeremy Cameron, he's the best key forward in the league.
At the moment, I did call him
Georgie?
for the Brownlow in the
No,
opening pod.
100%. He's a freak of nature. I think Carlton fans will leave in the crowd going, wow, that's an amazing win. And also Jeremy Cameron's a freak. Like, he won everyone over. If you hadn't already in that performance, that was crazy.
He could be the best player in the league entirely, not just key forwards. Just who's like he must be in the top 5 minimum.
Yeah, well, he's not just getting the goals. He's, like you said, close to 30 touches for a forward is ridiculous.
Surely he gets the 3 votes. Like, it'd be good to look back on Brownlow night and see who got the 3 votes. You'd have to give it to Cameron over Curnow.
And then Curnow will get 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And then other than that,
Maybe like a Sard or something like that.
I like Matthew Kennedy, man.
I think he had a great game as well.
Yeah, like I don't think he'll get it because he's not as they don't sing his praises as much in the media, and the umpires might not notice him as much. But I thought he was really good.
And speaking of Sard, actually, I've got a question for George and more broadly to the Carlton fan base. What is the deal with that noise that Carlton fans make when Sard kicks the ball? I swear it wasn't happening last year. Maybe I'm just misremembering. But can you explain it, George, if you can? And what's going on there?
So Ange Christou used to get that kind of woof treatment every time he kicked the ball. And I actually don't know much about the history of that. But Ange Christou did a social media post last year backing in Adam Sard and encouraging them to get behind him. And ever since then, it's just stuck now. So
That's really nice, actually. Is he the guy who has the ice cream shop?
yeah,
Next to-
it's North something. It's a fish and chip shop in Northgate Plaza.
Yeah,
next to the Grinners.
there we go. No, yeah, we see him relatively often, actually. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that explanation because I was very confused.
Yeah, I don't think it's going anywhere now, for better or for worse. So he's going to have to put up with it.
Yeah, fair enough. He played really well, though. Very impressed by his defending. Obviously, he's electrifying when he gets the ball, but he does a decent job of shutting down his man as well, which you can't underestimate.
Yeah, 100%. Now
There we
I've got a note here, and it says, "Give some stick to the boys."
Come on.
Hey, I've got some sticks to give
That's
as well,
harsh,
mate.
George.
Don't you worry.
Before we move on, not backing in the Blues against the Tigers, not backing in the Blues against Geelong.
We got one of them right, bro.
Well, irrespective, you guys, obviously we're mates. Obviously we back each other in. But going against the Blues and not believing in your second team.
Well, we'll get to your predictions of the
I
North
know,
games
you
later.
can't talk, my
We'll get to your predictions
but
of the
hang
North
on,
games
There
later.
was a scene in Braveheart, one of my favorite films.
Here we go. Reenact it, brother.
I think 15 minutes in, if anyone wants to click to it. William Wallace's
And 23 seconds.
William Wallace's dad, he passed away, spoiler alert. And in a dream, he turns to William and he's like, "Your heart is free. Have the courage to follow it." And
Wow.
that's the message to you boys. Have the courage to follow
That is
the
deep.
Carlton Football Club
My heart was
in their journey.
all right. We'll leave
That's what I've gotta
it.
say.
We'll leave it at that. That was really poetic and beautiful.
We'll leave it
Thank
at that.
you
But
very
you
much.
also did say last week it was a hard narrative to sell. Seeing the
I don't want to be
Cats
held.
0-2.
I don't want to be held
Hey.
accountable for what I say.
Oh jeez.
All right. I think we should. We've probably spent about like 15 minutes talking about that game.
Let's go another 15.
George deserved it.
Nah, fair enough. We had to give Carlton their flowers, as we like to do on this show. The next game, Brizzy versus Melbourne. The lights went out. That was a really entertaining game, I reckon.
Oh, I love that 30 minutes break in that last quarter.
Yeah,
It was-
I went to bed. I went to
exhilarating.
bed after. I'm like, yeah, nah, too much for me. I didn't get to see Melbourne's little resurgence because I'm like, nah, can't do it.
I'll tell you what, in my opinion, the first and maybe only talking point of this game is Will Ashcroft. Obviously, his performance. He announced himself to the league. Number 1 draft pick, looks the goods. But I do want to comment also on the kid. He's playing the part, not only on the field, his hair, the mane of a lion. Unreal.
He does look like a lion.
When he gets a bit older and he can grow a beard, if he does not grow a Travis Johnston-esque beard and maintain that long hair and turn into a literal lion,
Yeah.
I'll be disappointed.
They can literally replace the logo with him.
Literally.
Well, why not?
What a
think
player, though. What a player.
Lion King 5 is just a picture of him in the
100%.
front cover.
Yeah. It's all
Yeah.
him. It's all him. But he was fantastic. The Lions were great.
Yeah.
Zorko come back into the team. Really.
He's breaking lines at 45 years old, man. That dude, he's a great footballer, man. It's almost like when Gary Ablett got a bit older. Sacrilege, a bit too much. But Gary Ablett Jr., when he got older, he still had that pace to break lines and play that half forward role. It's kind of what Zorko's doing now, man.
Positioning and intensity of his play doesn't go away.
Yeah, he's a bit of a barometer, I think. For they talk. Who's the barometer?
Matheson.
Yeah, Matheson.
Matheson.
It's not Matheson.
That's the fake
He's the
barometer.
VFL team's barometer.
He's with Mitch Robinson. Zorko, man. Zorko's the man.
Yeah.
fair
And
enough.
again, another thing we've got to mention as well, Gunston, the slowest ever ankle breaker
Did you see
on,
that?
on Harrison Petty. My goodness. Petty, the way his feet just went,
Hey,
poor fella.
if
But,
Petty was in the NBA, he'd be on SportsCenter, top 10.
oh, big
100%.
Shackton a fool, that boy.
Shacked a fool as well. 100%.
Yeah, that was tough by Jack Gunston. Shout out to him.
It was a good response from the Lions, though, because obviously they got smacked by Port. It was a pretty terrible first-round performance. And so they got beat around the ball, and they really responded. I've got the 60 to 32 clearances and 20 clearances to 10 clearances, center bounce clearances. So they just dominated in the midfield. Melbourne had no answer.
Against one of the best center bounce teams.
That's right.
Yeah, I think probably Brodie Grundy being forced into the ruck without that chemistry between him and Oliver and Petrarca, I think that probably has something to do with it. But regardless, you still got to get those clearances. Yeah. So
Do you think Gawn potentially being injured for a long time played on their mind at all, affected their mentality in the game?
I think it might have. And yeah, it's weird that we didn't even mention it until now. But yeah, Gawn, that injury at the start of the game, that's a huge impact. That's the captain. That's the dude who, the structure really centers around him because they play big, and also he covers the ground and takes intercept marks. It's huge.
Yeah, I still do think the Lions were just up for it. They had the crowd behind them and a real chip on their shoulder to prove themselves after a disappointing round 1. But I did want to just mention, actually, potentially the secret to the Lions' turnaround. Any Eagle Eye viewers notice Reece Conker is one of their runners now? I just wanted to shout him out.
Oh, whoa!
Good on him for.
This is a guy who
sticking
actually
around.
watched the game.
Wow. Mate, I noticed him on the bench there. I'm on a bit of a runner watch this year, just on the lookout for ex-players on the run duties.
Is Boomer still our runner?
He's
Still out
not.
there?
He's not, unfortunately.
Oh.
He's taking a hiatus at the moment.
Okay.
Mutual.
Fair enough.
We've got Daniel Cross now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there you go.
Crossy. Yeah, he was a good player.
So runner watch, Cross at North, Conker at the Lions. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's getting in their ear, giving them some good advice. He's got a big engine on him.
Perhaps, yeah. I think that is probably the biggest turnaround from round 1 to round 2. Would be Brizzy in my eyes. And like the contrast is for the next game, it's the biggest turnaround the other way from Port. And I think Dean he's got some words to say.
I've got many words.
Many words.
The first
Just give
one
us a
is-
couple.
Yeah, first one's this. I was way too quick to apologise last week. The power.
Take it back.
I'm taking it back and some. Okay, here's what I have to say. Firstly, what was more of a power outage, Friday night or Saturday Arvo? I'm pretty sure Saturday Arvo was.
I
Okay?
agree.
Now look, Collingwood's an amazing team. We'll get to them. They're going to get theirs. Port Adelaide, 0 desire, 0 run. Jason Horne-Francis. You guys called it last week. Maybe he's going to resort back to not having his ice baths. He was horrendous.
Didn't take his recovery seriously.
And what does he do? 6 frees against when things aren't going his way, just like he did last year all year at North. And we
Spat the
defended him.
dummy.
We defended him all year. He spat the dummy once again. 6 frees against. Probably biggest sook in the AFL at this point in time.
Some big takes tonight, I think.
No, look. My point is this though: the Power cannot go and just be beating teams at home and then come up against a genuine top 4 team and put out that horrendous performance. I don't care how good Collingwood are. You've just had a great win against a maybe potential top 4 team in the future, and you've just stunk it up completely. Hinkley talking a big game, tagging Dacos. How did that work out?
Yeah,
mate?
how'd that go, man?
Mate, first coach to be sacked. I'm standing by that. I'm doubling down from last
I like
week.
it. I like it because if they don't make top 8, what's Ken Hinkley doing? You know,
Well,
how's he going to improve it now? He's got the best list that he's had for years. You know, he's got the inside midfield brigade on paper: Razee, Horn Francis, Wines, Boak as well, who's
Butters.
coming. Butters. Yeah, what's going on, man? What's going on?
And they lost contested possession by 57, which is an absolute thumping. 15-4 contested. I think clearances 39-27. I've got they just got sorted around the ball, and yeah, you're right. It is a bit night and day from last week.
Yeah, and we really should turn it around. Collingwood again, similar to last week or the previous week. Yeah, it's just
flag favourites.
flag favourites. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And Dacos, with the threat of a tag, still did what he wanted to do and more.
Come on, man.
So yeah.
Nick Dacos had 661 meters gained, and Josh Dacos 574. So that was the two most in the game, the brothers.
is that the highest that two brothers have gotten in a game?
Surely.
For meters
a good
gained.
stat. It'd be an interesting stat to look at.
Yeah.
Well,
But
who's the competition? Brad and Chris Scott back in the day.
Yeah. The
Tom and Sam DeConning.
Chad and Kane back in the day.
Yeah, true.
Chad
Scott
and
Selwood and Joel Selwood.
They were actually, I saw something on Facebook or AFL website, whatever it was, that, yeah, Kane and Chad were the last All-Australian brothers, in the same All-Australian team. Could it be the Dacos boys this year? Maybe. It wouldn't surprise me if they keep playing
on the
this well.
wings or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
one on the wing, one at halfback. Yeah.
Oh, the Pies were fantastic though, boys. And obviously the Dacos brothers get their respect and their love because they were fantastic. But let's not forget those veterans in that team. Side bottom. Every time we want to write this guy off, he just comes back stronger. Pendlebury the same. Tom Mitchell, another solid outing. Doesn't need to get those crazy 40-touch games anymore. 28, 30 will do. And he's just playing his role fantastically.
And another guy
unreal.
who building upon his excellence at the end of last season, Darcy Cameron.
Yeah, what a gun.
He's just this very, very good ruckman, man. He's one of those ruckmen similar to like a Roll Marshall. He goes in for the second efforts. He's not a high hit-outs guy, but he still, gets in amongst it.
Yeah, look, I think we can all agree that the Pies have been the most impressive team so far in terms of quality of the opposition beaten. We'll get to Sydney a bit later, who are also looking very good. But yeah, scary times for everyone else in the league, but good on the Pies.
Yeah, it's a big game on Friday night. Pies Tigers. It's going to draw a massive crowd, so looking forward to that one for sure. I just want to add, I saw a shout out to this Facebook group called the Useless AFL Stats. Will Hoskin Elliott, now the most games played for a player with a hyphenated name.
Oh,
So
wow.
shout out to Hoskin Elliott, friend of the pod for sure.
Yeah, he's a viewer. Good on you. Well done, Will.
Well done, Will.
That's a great start.
That
Thanks,
is a good.
George.
That is a good stat. That is a good stat.
Awesome. Shall we move on to the next game, which was the
Yeah.
Crows v the Tigers? I will just mention, actually, we got that tip right. We did get
Wait, which one?
the Pies power
I was
game.
going to say this
Yeah, I'm
next
working
one.
it. I'm working
This
it back.
next one, something happened.
We'll get to that. We'll get to
Something
that.
happened.
But just let's start from around the first game again. So George mentioned we tipped against the Blues. Sorry, George. We were 0-1. We did also, I think we tipped Melbourne.
We did.
So sorry about that one again. That was me. Pies beat the Power. We got that one. So we were 1-2 at the moment, and then we get to the fourth game, Crows v Tigers.
So
Matsa,
this is the one where we're doing the tips. I'm going to go with the Tigers. They're a more experienced team. And then all of a sudden these guys went Crows.
look,
The disrespect.
Matsa, you did not watch the first half of that Crows game last week. And we saw some great stuff, didn't we, George?
I
And
saw
we
the
thought-
scores going up.
We thought maybe with the crowd behind them and that same first half effort that they would have enough.
Look, Adelaide can play footy, but I think the problem in the first two rounds is they just can't keep it up for the 4 quarters.
There's a world where they win that game if they play better for 4 quarters, and not just 2.
Fair enough, man. But yeah, no, Richmond came out to play today. Oh, that fell on Saturday. Yeah, on Saturday
Let's
they
not
came
forget,
out to play.
though, the Tigers were up by, 20, 30 points. And then the Crows came right
they
back
came
at them.
back. They can play ballistic footy.
They can. They just can't keep it up at the moment. They're playing in patches, quite massive swings in the games. Like I said, they were within, a kick at one point. And then they just blew out again. So
So I guess we can say that it's not really them losing isn't them being particularly bad. It's just that in this case, Richmond were more consistent throughout the game.
Yeah, they
got the
wrestled back
W.
momentum, and the Crows just aren't mature enough
Yeah,
to deal with it, I
fair
don't
enough.
think.
Um,
I will say, bounce back for Rory Laird. Thank you.
yeah,
Had him VC on my super coach. You can check out
Yeah.
that pod, the extra episode. But yeah, good players don't stay down for long, do they, George?
that's it.
No, that's right. And it's also good to see Hopper and Taranto back up kind of round one, especially Hopper kind of came back and had a stronger performance. But, you know, they're the two dominant mids now in the Richmond team. So Prestia didn't have as big of an impact in that game. He's still a great player, but, you know, they're the new look midfielders for the Tigers.
Yeah, I was going to say Hopper was huge compared to his round one where he was sloppy, he was fumbling. In this game, it just looked like everything just stuck for him. His disposal was clean. Yeah, he came out to play. Shame that he got injured towards the end of the game. He only managed, I think, 70% time on ground because he had a little knee injury. Hopefully, he can get back and give our Supercoach teams a bit of a spark in round 3. But we'll see how we go.
I'm sure he will. And Tigers are in a little bit of an interesting spot. They weren't convincing against the Blues. They won, nice win, not particularly overly convincing against the Crows. And they've got a massive test, which we'll get to in our tips later. But against the Pies this week. So
another little player that I want to just mention is Samson Ryan as well. He got 3 goals.
Yeah, he played well, didn't he?
It really, because it's seeming as though Jack Rewalt probably be his last year or two. Probably this year will be his last. The passing of the torch is happening right now, and it's Samson Ryan. He's ready for AFL football.
I'm pretty sure he kicked the ball out on the full round 1 too. So he had some kicking practice, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he played round 1, bro.
Did he not? Who was the other one? Who was the other tall guy that kicked out on the full? Some other tall guy.
Some tall guy. I don't know. They're all tall.
And look, as always, there's a few reportings that happen during the week. We'll let the guys on AFL 360 and on the couch and all those other ones talk about the sling tackles and the bumps and things.
Dead. The bump's dead.
Bumps dead. Yeah, sling tackles are dead as well, so we're not going to mention that too much.
Yeah.
All good. Now, Matsa, you wanted to talk a bit about the Sainters. They had a nice win against the Dogs, which I was the only one that tipped the Saints, if you recall that.
Yeah, shout out to you. But for us, we didn't have the... now that we've got 2 rounds under our belt, we know that the Saints are real, and I'm not going to disrespect them with tips anymore. So the thing with the Saints is the energy that they play with defensively, covering... When the Bulldogs were in the defensive position trying to kick it out from half back, their structure pushing forward and pressuring them was incredible, and they couldn't get forward, the Bulldogs. And when St Kilda eventually picked off those passes when Saints picked off the passes from the Bulldogs, they pushed it forward super quick, didn't give Western Bulldogs a chance to set themselves up, and that's how they got most of their goals. Yeah, they're a really good team, man. And the makeshift forward line with Caminiti, Philippou, Owens, Cordy, all those dudes, providing that height allows Rowan Marshall to stay in the ruck, and that's where he plays his best footy. So good on those boys.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you talk about that makeshift forward line. I mean, Cordy, I don't think has ever played forward. Caminiti wasn't on the list last year.
He wasn't on the list like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's right.
He just got there.
I think the story with Caminiti is he was a VFL reserves player for Carlton, and Jack Silvani saw him. He's like, oh, geez, this player's pretty good. He went home and told his dad, Stephen Silvani, and Stephen Silvani is the recruiter for the Saints, and he picked him up.
Why did he do that, man? He should have let his own team recruiters know.
Yeah,
not that you guys need another key forward, but still.
He looks good, really, really good.
Yeah, very mobile. He's a tall boy as well, so yeah, good on him.
And I will say about the Saints in the sense that, they do have the makeshift forward line and obviously changing game plan sort of baited the Dogs into making a lot of mistakes and then hitting them the other way. But when you look at the plays on their best for the week, still there, the leaders, Jack Steele, Rowan Marshall, Brad Crouch, Jack Sinclair, Brad Hill. All those guys that they've invested a lot of time in.
And money and draft
time and
picks.
money, draft picks, the leadership of the whole team are part of their best squad and performing consistently, which is great.
Yeah, and that's huge because then it allows the X factors to be just that. They don't have to carry the load. Say Philippou, he kicked a snap from 40 meters. There was the set shot from 55. Man, Kid can play. And
he's
he just needs
actually-
like little moments. He doesn't need to carry the load, which is just it's perfect.
And part of the intrigue with him in his draft year as well was that he was very young for last year's draft. He could have actually waited and been like a regular age this year. So
He still looks 15. So,
yeah, he's a gun. He's going to get really good really quickly. But yeah,
They
well
got
done.
they got a really good one. And mate, this draft is looking really good so far with Ashcroft, Sheasel, Mackenzie, Philippou,
Hollands as well.
Hollands. We haven't seen Sardis play yet for the Dons.
I'm sure he'll be good.
What
the way
a
they're
draft
playing.
so far.
We'll get to that.
This is great.
Yeah.
It's you know, the Ross no loss factor is it goes to show that good coaches can make any team kind of work, right? I'm not saying that the Saints don't have talent. They obviously do, and they look like a relatively good kicking side as well. But you know, they were kind of a nothing team last year. They didn't really have much of an identity. You bring in a coach that has a defensive mindset that's also talking about playing attacking footy, and then you know you come out and look at the relentless pressure that they're putting in. They've obviously got a lot of injuries, not a lot of first choice players playing, but it doesn't matter. It's bodies against bodies, so it's good for the Saints.
And we should obviously touch on the fact that the Dogs, something's not right there. The forward structure in the preseason season review pod that we did, I had them pegged in at about 5th on our ladder, I believe, maybe 6th. Actually, it was 6th.
Maybe 16th at this point, man.
Yeah, look, they're looking
Nah, maybe not
horrible. Josh Bruce back in defence. Like, I'm sorry, that just reeks of you want to play him, but you can't fit him in the forward line. Just come on, man.
I
forward
think
structure
just
not
trying
working.
to get it out of the defense. That's what they can't do that right now.
Yeah.
Well,
It's-
the Dogs scored 41 points round 1 and 65 round 2. That's the second lowest out of any team in the comp. Only the Hawks have scored less points, 4.
There
So
you go.
and that's only 37 inside 50s for that game. So they can't transition the ball and they can't stop the transition. What's going on?
It feels like all their goals they're coming from when St Kilda made their mistakes, they capitalized and Bont helped in that. I think he was part of a lot of those chains. So you can't rely on that. You know, just the other team making mistakes.
They've got, they've got some big names in the midfield, but they're actually last in the comp at the moment from scoring from stoppages.
That's shocking. That
so-
should not be the case.
Do you guys think? I didn't think this, but there's some talk now about Dunkley going and Hunter going. We thought maybe that they'd have the midfielders to cover that. Do you think that that's the case, or maybe they're missing Dunkley and Hunter, and maybe that's affecting them? What do you think?
Definitely missing him, but you would think that Libba, Bailey would be enough to cover that. But
Yeah, it doesn't
obviously not.
explain how bad they've been. For
Exactly,
sure, it hurts your team, but this is more than that, I believe. It's a whole team issue.
Maybe this is Bevo's last year. If he doesn't pick it up,
Well, hey, he's had a good run.
he's had a great run.
Not
He
to say
won,
that
you know,
it's
won
over,
a
but-
premiership, and that's the thing. I was talking to a Bulldog supporter, and I was like, "Look, you guys won a premiership in the last 10 years. That's honestly, and you did it early. But like, if we get one premiership out of Clarko, that's all I want. I don't need 2, 3, 4, 5. You just want one.
That's a nice transition there, Matsa. Thank you for that.
Let's go.
Look, we'll keep a lid on it. However, upset of the round. North is
Yep.
2-0.
Shoe in apparently. Was
Yeah,
Fremantle.
George. Let's just start there. Actually,
Yeah, he's like Freo's a shoe in.
Freo's a shoe in. At quarter time of the match, where North had a nice 4-goal lead, I said to George, I don't know, Freo might have something to worry about here. And you said they really don't.
They really
That's what you said, George.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure they were
goodness
worried at
me.
the end of that game, weren't they, George?
Look,
wow.
if you take the North Melbourne hat off for a second, you have to,
It's permanently on my head. but
as
anyway.
a neutral supporter, the fact that Freo lost that game is atrocious from their perspective.
But here's the thing. I agree with you. And that's what the commentators were saying all night long. But how about North just stifled them completely? Won the ball where it mattered in the middle, set up well in defence, and punished them when it mattered. I think Freo has some problems, for sure. They're not playing their best footy. But when you're not playing your best footy and you come up against a supposed bad team, play your game.
No, it's,
They got
it's all
stopped.
it's all credit to North, and I'm happy that you guys end up winning in the end because it got close, and there's a controversial decision we can talk about.
Not at all.
But
Look, there was a controversial decision then, but also the refereeing, the umpiring beforehand was just atrocious towards us.
I will say
It
this.
really was, and that's
Yeah.
just not me being, maybe it is a bit the one-eyed supporter thing, but seriously, it was bad.
Well,
was
I've written
really
it down.
bad.
34 free kicks to the Dockers,
Mm.
23 to North. So they had 11 more free kicks, and some of them were leading to goals. So look, we're not going to get into that too much. It wasn't about that
Yeah.
overall.
Let's just talk about the good stuff about.
Let's talk about the
North.
good stuff.
LDU is just about the best midfielder in the competition right
Well,
now.
he's leading the Brownlow count at the moment. You would think, surely
he's
on
got
6
got
votes.
20 coaches' votes, so 2 perfect games.
Correct. Now Nick Larkey is leading the Coleman, the best drop punt set shot inside 50 in the game currently. He just never looks like missing.
Absolutely.
Goldie comes back in the team. Did you see when he was on the mark for Frederick's set shot outside 50 and Frederick tried to take him on and Goldie just wasn't having any of it and pinned him? Incredible moment.
Still mobile for a 39-year-old, however old he is.
Oh, mate, he's the best. He's timeless. Harry Sheasel's done it again. Saves the game at the end. Another 30 disposals. The kid is absolutely superb. LDU dropping the F-bomb in the post-match interview.
Yeah, that was good, man. That's the
Fantastic.
passion, There was a couple other things as well. The best defender on the ground was a guy that Freo tried to play in the forward line last year and it didn't really work. And then he came to us. Griffin Logue was immense, man.
Freo
He was
fans,
immense.
why are you booing a player that you played out of position and forced out of your team and then just left for more opportunity?
Exactly.
You caused the situation, not you, the fans, but
No,
your
the
team-
fans. You the
Your team has made a decision. You don't boo the guy. He's coming back home.
Yeah.
And yes, he just destroyed your forward line, but have some respect.
Non-existent
Have
forward
some
line. And Clarko.
Yeah.
Clarko, that was fantastic to see, man. And there was some, AFL commentators who weren't entirely happy with that. Some journos, cheeky Caro. That's what's wrong with you, Caro? Come on, that was a great part of the game. That was fantastic.
Who
Seeing.
hurt Caro?
Who hurt you from North Melbourne?
Someone definitely hurt her for sure because she's got a problem with a lot of things.
Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe that might be the typical AFL media trying to create a little bit of discussion and cause a bit of controversy. So fair enough. Clarko being out there showing the support to the boys and geeing them up, high fives, this and that. It was great, man. It's what you want to see.
Well, he's got the belief in the team now, and we'll get to our tips later on. But North has the Hawks this week. So there's a world in which North is 3-0. We'll get to that later, but who would have thought as a North fan?
You would have thought that it would be a hard narrative to sell. That North would be
What's
3-0.
What's the stats going 3-0 and making or not making finals? That's what I want to know.
Well, I think if you're 2-0, I read this earlier, you're
71.
70 odd % chance.
That
make
may have
finals.
been in the family WhatsApp.
It might have been.
It may or may not. And another thing that was in the family WhatsApp was 2 teams that are it's the third time in AFL history where the top team of last year, the premiers of last year, are 0-2, and the bottom team from last year is 2-0. So, big turnaround.
It's incredible stuff. And I did just want to touch on the Dockers as well. Obviously, we're very excited for North. Happy to talk about them all day. But
Yep.
I'm making a claim right now. Luke Jackson, is he the most... I'm not saying he doesn't have the potential, but is he currently the most overrated player in the AFL?
I don't think that he is a natural forward. I think when he played his best footy at Melbourne, it was when Gawn took himself out of the ruck and Jackson played a ruck role. You saw even in the grand final a couple of years ago when Melbourne kicked those goals, like 3 goals in 30 seconds. That was like Jackson being part of that. I think that he's just a better ruckman. I don't think he's a forward player. And they need a forward because they subbed out Taberner because he wasn't performing. Brought on Sonny Walters. Walters kicked 2 goals. O'Meara came in and kicked 2 goals in the last quarter. I mean, who are they relying on? Jaime is a young player but didn't have an impact. They got problems in the forward line.
Jamie's looking like the Undertaker out there. Love it.
I know, man. Boy needs some sleep, man. Yeah. There was a time where they were talking about Luke Jackson possibly playing as like a tall midfielder. Like, why not? Why not give that a shot? Because the midfield isn't doing much. We don't want either him or Darcy in the forward line because they're they've got to be in the contest.
Well, it only works if you deliver the ball how a ruckman needs it to deliver it into the 50. And they're just not getting the ball in there to make use of the height. And they're just standing under the ball. And then guys like Griffin Logue are just jumping up and third man upping it out of the bounds. So, out of the bounds. That was nice. But yeah, look, it's just not working. It's not working at the moment. I think it's a bit of an overreaction. Darcy's still a good player. Jackson, he's very talented. But
Yeah, you can just see the athleticism of the guy. You know, almost 200 centimeters, or maybe he's 200 centimeters, and he's such a fluid athlete. There's a lot to work with there. So yeah,
I think Freo and I think the Dogs are probably the two teams that are really underperforming at the moment. And these are teams that have been in the top 8 discussion. At the moment, you wouldn't have them anywhere near that.
the one little thing I will say about Freo is that they are young compared to the Doggies. Like they're still, I think their average age played in the game was very similar to North's, which you wouldn't think because they've been, touted as a finals team, but they're still very young. So
the issue is now, though, I agree, they probably overachieved last year, but then they've gone and recruited Jackson. They've recruited O'Meara. So they're obviously thinking they're in some sort of a window, and it's so far just been disastrous.
yeah, well, at least Jackson's young, but the O'Meara one is a win now, sort
Yeah.
of pick. But yeah,
Well, look, speaking of young teams, the next game, Swans absolutely hammering the Hawks. Now, before we get into too many details, I've got a bit of a hot take from some people very close to me that are Hawthorn supporters. A bit controversial, perhaps, given we sort of knew what Hawthorn was getting into this year, but they're saying Mitchell out, boys. And I'm not even joking. Like,
Wow.
genuinely disgusted at what they're seeing, both in terms of the naivety of the rebuild, stripping all of their senior players. Only one player over 30 on that list, Luke Bruce. Their other leader, Sicily, he's moving into his prime, but he's not been there and done that like Bruce has. It's pretty bleak from a rebuild point of view when you're so young and you just know you're going to be playing, trying to be playing exciting footy, and just the ball's coming the other way constantly. North tried it last year, tried to play attacking footy, it just did not work early on, and we know how that ended. But they are not happy at all.
it's funny because I have a different opinion on that, just because the Hawthorn with Jaeger O'Meara and with Tom Mitchell, they weren't going anywhere. They weren't going anywhere anyway. So I think the fact that they decided, we're going to prioritize the youth, we're going to give guys like Josh Ward and Mackenzie and Will Day some midfield time, I love that personally. And then this might be coming from the NBA fan perspective, where I think, if you tank when you need to, your team's going to come up pretty quickly. But yeah, no, I don't mind what the Hawks are doing. If they lose a few games, they get Harley Reid, who's going to be one of the better youngsters, that's come through in the last, I don't know, however many years. But I don't know. I don't think it's too bad for them.
For me, if I put in like the Carlton perspective, I've seen Carlton go through a lot of rebuilds, and there was the most recent one under Brendan Bolton where they were playing Dow and Sam Petreski-Seaton and whoever else was there at the time, like young kids in their first year playing on ball and getting slaughtered, just like the Hawks. So I was obviously disappointed at the time and annoyed, but I kind of knew that there was a bigger picture. The Hawks are kind of just doing the same thing. They're saying we're going to suck until we don't suck, but when we don't suck, we're going to be really good. But if you're an actual Hawks supporter in the thick of it, watching your team every week, it's going to be frustrating. But I think it's pretty clear they've drafted well and they've got good kids. They're inexperienced.
Yeah, I see it both ways. I think time will tell which opinion is proving to be correct. But from my point of view as well, my belief is if a young player is good enough, they'll get the games they deserve. No point sort of taking a punt on your draft analysis. Obviously, you back in the guys you pick, but gifting games early on, maybe when they're not ready, there's nothing wrong with learning from more senior players as well. Like a North Melbourne perspective, seeing LDU, it's taken him a few years to get to this point. Learning off Cunners, learning off Simpkin, who's a bit older. The value in that versus getting games into them, but what's the use getting games into you if you're just getting pumped by 80 points every week? There's a grey area there. All I know is, they're not happy at all, and questioning Mitchell's ability to even get them out of it in the long run anyway. It's interesting.
I think that similar to the Noble, how we experienced, David Noble's coaching, and when he got fired, I think it was knowing that Clarko was coming in, So, or knowing that Clarko was available, there was a few good coaches available. That's the only reason why you'd give up on Mitchell so early, is if you know someone's there for the taking. But
I don't know. It'd be interesting to look at other teams that have done a really massive rebuild and to see whether the coach that started the rebuild ends up finishing it. Because if it's like a 5-year period, clubs demand success, supporters and members demand success, and sometimes that pressure mounts to a point where they have to do something about it. So it would be interesting to see whether they back in Mitchell through the really, really hard times. If they don't win a game for, if they win one game a year for the next couple of years, or it's something really, really bad like a Carlton, like a David Teague or Brendan Bolton was like 2-3 wins out of 40 games. If it's that bad, whether they have the balls to keep him in the position.
Well, even look at Collingwood at the moment. I mean, they could easily tap Pendlebury on the shoulder, side bottom on the shoulder and say, sorry, boys, we need to get Dacos on ball at every centre bounce. But you can still have those players develop and maintain a competitive side. So it's a bit of a grey area. I think they're in trouble, the Hawks, this year. If they're going to keep trying to play that daring football with such inexperience, they're going to be on the end of a few of these. But look, Sydney, we're not talking about them too much for a reason. We know that they're a top 4 team. They're very good. Hawthorn's not very good at all. So it was bound to happen. But
I think the only new thing we can really say about Sydney is Amadi and McDonald both. Was it 9 goals between them?
Very entertaining stuff.
Yeah.
Amadi has played well every time I've seen him. It's just he pops in when there's big injuries, plays well, then gets dropped.
Yeah, see, he's one of those young guys. If he does play a bad game, they're not scared to drop him. And that's because you have McDonald, you have Buddy, you have Sam Reid. There's other options.
Yeah. Good stuff, boys. And I think we'll get to the next game now. So the Bombers beat the Suns. Now, round one.
Here's another one where I started the tipping with the Bombers and you guys went Suns.
Well, look.
Second team of the pod.
Second team of the pod. Have some respect, mate. Anyway.
Now they're the second team.
But now, look, let's be honest.
All right.
Round one, we didn't really think the Bombers would be much this year. I know I certainly didn't. We didn't give them too much respect after round one. Now, here we are at round two. They've had another win.
I haven't versed anyone, mate.
I personally, I'm not quite there yet. I'm sorry, Bombers fans.
Man, let's come
not
on.
quite there, but I'm respecting what they're doing. I will say that.
Yeah. Well, look, Setterfield is he's had a good showing in the first couple of weeks. I think that's a big positive. Parrish, Merritt, the midfield. They've gotten that tall midfielder that they needed. The last few years. Finally, I think they're pretty good, man. I think they're pretty good. I like McGrath as well, actually playing his best position, the halfback.
Yeah.
Zerk Thatcher, sorry, I'll keep interrupting. Zerk Thatcher had a really good game. He got injured towards the end, man, but before he got injured, he was really he was intercepting, he was spoiling. I liked him a lot.
I'm really interested to see how the Dons go against a stronger team because they versed Hawks and Gold Coast. So
and the shame is that Gold Coast, are they a bad team again?
They're a bad team.
I have to say, that was going to be my point, which is I was watching that game. The Suns had them. It was a game of momentum, so definitely was up in the air at many points in time. But when the Sunnies did have the momentum, they just were not punishing the Bombers at all. Like, it could have easily been a 20-point Suns win, and I would not have been surprised. So, like George, you're willing to say, yep, these players are doing well for the Bombers. They certainly look like they have improved. They're giving a lot more effort, but in terms of considering them like maybe a potential finals team like I am the Saints, I don't think it's comparable because they haven't beat anyone too impressive just yet.
Fair enough. I guess that guy who commented on YouTube, that Zoomis guy, he's gonna be pissed, man.
Well, look, we're giving them a bit more respect. I'm sure our viewers understand that. We can't go all in, but
that's true. We can't like everyone.
We can't.
You can't.
Like, it's a game. We can, but we can't.
Yeah, no. Well, we've got to have a little bit of edge to us. Otherwise, we're just boring. You know what I mean?
So Bombers, prove us wrong.
Who do they have? We'll get it to the tips, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
We might back them in this week, maybe.
Possibly, depending on who.
I'm not making any promises there. And with the last game, I actually tipped the Giants. I was the only one. Didn't want to give the clean sweep to the Eagles, but well done, boys, for backing in West Coast.
Wet toast.
Wet toast. Wet toast did it,
not
man.
as wet this
they
time
dry this week, man. They was dry. Tim Kelly, he's winding back the clock a little bit to his first year of footy. We was playing really good footy. Good on him, man.
Good response from West Coast. I mean, we weren't really sure. We expected them to be better this year. Round one, North too good. What can we say?
It happens,
But
man.
it's good to see that they kind of got some grip back and won a game that they really needed to win. So their midfield, like Shuey had a good game. You mentioned Kelly. Sheed, I think, was all right as well in the midfield. So just a bit of a stronger performance. And some different goal scorers, like Waterman, I think, kicked 4 goals, which was good.
He looks a bit like Fraser Garrick, actually. He's just
Whoa.
like, you know what I mean? Not as a footballer. We're not doing that. just the hair. And the very, menacing look that he has in his face. He's got a bit of Fraser. But
I like it. Fraser started off in the Eagles, didn't he?
he did, didn't he?
He did.
Oh, well, there you go. There's a link I didn't even make. Well, there you go. Fraser Waterman.
I'm fairly certain, but
The
don't kill me
J
if I'm
train.
wrong. The J train. I'll tell you what. Look, the Eagles. The difference between what I saw against North live last week and this week was they're just moving the ball a lot more confidently through the corridor, getting it to the forwards without third or fourth men up interfering on the play because they were so slow to get it there. Obviously, North must have done a better job at stopping the flow of the ball movement, and the Giants didn't have their best day. But a lot of the time when you're at home, you've got the momentum. Just get the ball moving, get the crowd into it, get it to your forwards, kick a winning score, and ultimately that's what they did. So good on them. Giants were undermanned slightly, so we're not going to overreact. I wouldn't have thought, but that's a nice way for them to bounce back after last week.
Yeah. We're going to see Cadman soon?
Well, he was. What was he? Emergency in the end. Did he get off? What was he? The sub or something?
I don't know. But I don't know. He's just someone that I'd like to see eventually because if their forward line wasn't up to it against the West Coast, you could do worse than throwing the number 1 pick in there.
Yeah, I think they had him as a potential in, but they didn't pick him in the final squad. So he's close. They did trade up to get him. So yeah, you would have thought they're pretty keen to get some games in.
Yeah,
him.
but look, in the end, we got 2 and 3, and I think 2 and 3 are looking really good. So
Yeah. We're not going to do a VFL extra like we do with the Supercoach, but I'll just say this: George Wardlaw, North Melbourne's other top pick from last year, debuted.
How'd he go?
He played
explosive.
It was funny because I was
Georgie
watching it.
boy.
I was watching it.
Georgie
It's something
boy.
in the name. I was watching it from the beginning, and
He's
he
got
was
jets.
quiet to get into it. And then at one point, I told Matsa that I was watching, and he jumped on in the third quarter.
Yeah, it was after he said, "Oh, Wardlaw kicked his first goal,"
Yeah,
and then I turned it on, and all of a sudden the Jets were on. He's bursting out of packs. Oof.
bouncing off players.
Do you
don't
think
argue.
he can come in this week? Is that what
Nah.
we're saying?
Nah.
He played only 3 quarters because he was coming back from some hammy concerns slowing him down in the preseason. But Will Phillips,
Yeah, I think it was only
We'll come
about
back.
30 or 40% actual game time. It was like half of each of those
Yeah.
quarters that he played.
and he had
So
6 tackles, 12 touches, and a goal. Now Will Phillips will come in this week.
yeah,
Simpkin.
he's the easy in.
Well, look, actually, looking ahead to next week, let's start with the tipping boys. Thursday
Let's do it.
night. I think we're just giving the AFL praise on these fixtures. Maybe it's a bit of luck now, but the way these are going, well done to them. The Doggies hosting the Lions at Marvel. So much on the line
Huge
for the
game.
Dogs. So
Huge
much on
game.
the line. Part of me is thinking they just bounce back now and get their win finally. But
I'm gonna give you 3 letters. NAW. No, it's gonna be Brisbane.
no,
Come on, man. Come on.
Dunkley's gonna have a field day. I think I think on Thursday.
Yeah.
I think Brisbane. I mean, Brisbane aren't the best. Is it Marvel?
it's at Marvel.
They're not the best Marvel team.
Brisbane.
Yeah, they're not the best Marvel team.
Yeah, but they're just the better team by far, and they beat Melbourne last week, who are a great team. They're gonna win.
Yeah,
That's my pick.
I'll
I'm
go
not, I'm
Brisbane
not gonna
too.
entertain it too much.
I'm fine with Brisbane.
yeah. I think the Dogs haven't shown enough for us to back them 3 rounds in now.
That's it. Yeah. Sample size of them being a good footy team this year is very, very small.
Yeah.
As in they had a preseason win against North, and that's it. So
North wasn't even trying.
exactly.
Saving it for the real
Exactly
stuff. Friday night, what a cracking game. Collingwood hosting the Tigers at the G. I'm going to go Collingwood. They've just been too irresistible, but I'm fairly hopeful it will be a very entertaining and close game.
I hope so as well, but I can't go against Collingwood at this point of the year. The way they've played the first 2 rounds, they've beaten 2 quality sides. Yeah,
I think
that's
they
enough.
probably play similar football, like a very slingshotty type of game from defense. But
Should be
Nick
entertaining. then.
Dacos 5 goals.
Ooh. 5 goals.
I don't know, man.
That was a very random look. Put a bet on it, bro. I'm
He
sure
can
the
do
odds are
anything,
good.
man. Make it 10 goals. Stuff it.
Fair enough. Well, Saturday, 1:45, they're getting the time slot to themselves again. North Melbourne going to Launceston to play the Hawks.
This is an interesting game. But I know what you guys are going to tip, and I'm not interested in fighting it. So North Melbourne, baby.
That's it.
First
That's
North
it.
tip of the
That's
year for
it.
Georgie.
Go on, Georgie.
Let's go.
On board.
Carlton
On
North
board.
round 4. I want us both to be undefeated.
Oh, nice.
Hey,
We're going to be going to that game, so yes.
That's it, man. That's
That will
it.
be
Expect
nice.
to see the enjoys at that one.
Well, look, even if I'm taking my North hat off,
Mm-hmm.
North's in form, Hawthorn isn't, so I think we're the safe tip.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. No, we
that-
don't have to do that little thing where we do the 2v1. That we don't need to do that again.
But
it's
Hawks will
It's
probably
obvious.
see this as a chance, as a good opportunity to bounce back. So you'll have to be on. But yeah, I think North is clearly better.
and Mitchell might actually legitimately kill his players. If they don't do well against his former mentor in Clarko. So they've got they got to watch their backs. The Hawks players.
There's murder on the line.
That's it.
Next game, so speaking of Carlton, they're going to the Giants in Western Sydney. I think we have to go unanimous Carlton for the first time of the year as well. What do you think, Matsa?
But the thing is, the GWS Giants, they're just
Nah, surely not.
nah. Look, Georgie's been nice enough to tip North, so I kind of wanted to make it a thing where we always go against Carlton, but we need to actually start getting some tips right.
Yeah.
So we'll go with the Blues.
Fair
They
enough.
they should win it. I think it's a decent tip.
I think so far we've been unanimous in each of the games, so
Things are starting to become a little bit more clear.
They
I
are.
think so.
I don't think we're going to argue too much on this next game as well. As good as the Bombers have been, they're going to the G to play the Sainers, who are the home team. Matsa's considering the Bombers. I don't know if they'll be able to score.
I'm okay with the Bombers tip here. I'm okay with. I think the Saints. I think both teams are bringing a lot of pressure, so I don't think it's going to be one of those things where one shows up and the other doesn't, and they're both on winning streaks.
I think the midfield battle could go Essendon's way because Jack Steele, after playing,
Yeah, he's injured.
fearless leader, played through a broken collarbone. He's actually going to be out now. So, but
How many injuries can Saints get before it gets too much?
I don't know. But I'm going to go with the Saints anyway, though, because maybe it's just because I prefer him to Essendon at this point.
Look, I see your point about the injuries. Jack Steele's a huge out on top of what they're already dealing with, but I just think as the system they play with their team defense, I'm finding it hard to see how the Bombers will kick a winning score like they did against Gold Coast and Hawthorn. I think they'll be held maybe to under 70 points, and I just feel like the Saints have a bit more going forward when they do counter-attack. So I will tip the Saints, but Bombers, you're causing a bit more of a discussion now, so well done. Keep it up. And maybe better luck at round 4. We might finally tip you. Port versus the Crows in the derby.
Ooh.
Adelaide Oval, Saturday night. What a game that is shaping up to be.
Yeah, that's probably the toughest one to
Yeah,
pick
it's
because
a tough
even though Adelaide have lost their 2 games, they've played 2 decent teams and they've had really good runs. In saying that, though, I'm going to go with Port just because, one of our favourite sayings is they need to respond. So I'm going to go with Port.
I actually have no idea. You wouldn't want to be betting on this game.
There's a world where both
I'm
teams
gonna
win.
make it difficult for you. I'm gonna make it difficult for you and go first
Go for it.
and go the Crows.
I knew it.
Port have played one really, really good game and one really, really bad game.
I was going to say, if Dino's making the final choice, we know he's not tipping Port. He just can't. You can't, after all that, you were saying you can't. And I won't be offended like I was with the Essendon and the Tigers thing.
Well, here's what I'm honestly thinking about the game.
All right.
Forgetting what I said earlier. Like you said, Port's had one really good game, one really bad game. Adelaide has shown something in both of their games, but fallen short. Last year, the Crows beat the Power, didn't they? Goal on the siren, Jordan Dawson, if I'm not mistaken. And I would argue that they're a bit better this year. So, with Port Adelaide being so inconsistent and me just disliking them immensely, I'm going to have to go the Crows. But I actually do genuinely believe if they can just string together a little bit more of the good stuff and not get so punished when they're not playing well, then I think they can get it done. The crowd's going to be insane. Let's go Crows.
All right, cool.
Sunday matches now. Gold Coast hosting the Cats. Both teams winless.
I got a feeling about that. No, we're going with the Cats.
Cats.
We can't.
Cats.
Yeah, it's a shame that Gold Coast are going to go 0-3, but yeah,
Yeah, Cats will win. Jack Bowes, best on ground.
That's it, man. That's it. Play him on ball. He's gonna smash up Took and Rowley.
Next game is going to be very interesting. Melbourne hosting the Swans at the G.
So
I'm always going first. You guys go.
I'll go first this time. I haven't been first in a while.
go for it.
I'm going to go Sydney. The away team. I know usually in those close ones, the home team gets the advantage, but the Swans have been very impressive, albeit not playing the best teams yet. I think they're just on a roll, and I'm backing in the momentum.
I'd be interested to look at the ins for Melbourne. Like, is May back?
I think he will be.
Obviously, we know Gaunt's not going to be there. That's a big one. They've got some other issues with some other players that I can't recall off the top of my head. I love the Swans, so I'm going to back them in. They play all right at the G as well, and I think it's their first real challenge, but I think the Swans are really good.
Who did you go, Dino?
I went Swans.
Oh, I guess mine doesn't really matter, but I'll just to make it a 2-1, I'll go with Melbourne, because then if we get the tip for this, like for the Swans, I feel good because the Enjoyers got the tip, and if Melbourne gets it, then I can say, oh, I tip Melbourne, so we'll go with Melbourne.
It's a win-win for you. Well done. And we end the round with the Western Australian derby, Freo hosting the Eagles. Man, Freo's got a lot on the line in this one. Jeez.
Massive. Normally, you'd think Freo tears them apart, but they're not playing the type of footy that...
No.
I still think Freo... I'm still going to tip in Freo. Their no forward line is going to get it done, mate.
You reckon?
Do you think West Coast can win this game?
Of course they can.
I think there's a world where
they
West
can.
Coast wins this one.
There is a world where West Coast win this one.
What world is it? Earth?
You know, you would have thought it'd be a hard narrative to sell, but this is a really tough one. I'm gonna go with Freo, and that's because here's a game where they match up better with not the forward line and defense part, but at least their rucks. They should get first use. They really should get first use with Darcy being such a dominant ruck, you know, against Bailey Williams. Unless Nick Nat all of a sudden decides, hey, I'm ready to go, lads. And he might. I'm going to go with Freo.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one because North has played both of these teams and we've beaten them both in close games. So still that North fan in me from the last few years is thinking, well, maybe both of them just aren't that good. Maybe North's gotten a bit lucky. But ultimately, they haven't shown me any reason to be confident in either of them. So I'm going to go for Freo just because I think they're a little bit more ahead of their rebuild. They're 0-2. They have to win this one, surely. I just think they'll get it done somehow.
All right, is that the last game of the round?
Yeah, we're done there. So let's just recap that real quick. So we've gone Brisbane to beat the Dogs at Marvel, Collingwood beating Richmond, North to beat Hawthorn, Carlton to beat Giants, Saints over Essendon, Port or Crows? Crows we went.
Yeah, Crows.
Yeah, no, it was Crows.
We went Crows. We went Geelong to beat the Suns, Sydney to beat Melbourne, and Freo to beat the Eagles. So let's hope we do better than last week. We'll leave it at that for today's episode.
I've got one more thing.
Oh,
you
one
more thing.
Okay, let's go.
I just thought of it, and it's close to the stupidest thing I've ever said. But
here we go.
It's at the end, so if anyone's still listening, you're about to hear something dumb.
Let's go.
We can edit it out.
We saw Brisbane and Melbourne, and we saw Brisbane dominate Melbourne, and then the lights went out. And when they came back, Melbourne nearly won the game. So there's a strategy now for the home team, I think. If things are going bad, just cut the lights, mate. Just cut the lights. It's your own stadium. Get someone in there just to turn off the power.
Yeah.
Reset.
Half an hour break. Get the coaching in. Stop all the momentum of the powerful team and just do it again. No one will know.
Yeah, just put a little fire in one of the lights.
Yeah, put one of it.
To make it look realistic.
It's a prop. It's a prop to fire.
Of course, that was a prop.
Fire.
And you need apparently there was a loud bang in the stadium, so you just got to get everyone to clap at the same time. And
wow, could you imagine if that happens in a really important game when one team doesn't have the momentum though? That would be very controversial.
No, I volunteer as tribute for any Carlton game. Anytime we're losing, I'm happy to throw an axe at a light.
Throw an axe. Oh, bro,
cut the cord.
The MCG security guards must really suck if you're bringing through an axe.
So if the lights go out in the North vs Carlton game next week, you know who's done it.
Yeah, true.
You heard it here first.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, that's my dumb take of the week.
Thanks very much
I like
for that,
it.
George.
I like
what
it,
a great
Georgie.
way to end the podcast. Thanks everyone for watching. Give the pod a like and sub on YouTube. 5 stars on Spotify. Look out for our Supercoach bonus app.
That's it.
bit more
Twitter,
positivity.
Instagram, we there as well.
That's it. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys.